Hello and welcome to your Tuesday edition of The Nerve. I am your host, Maureen Callahan, and we have so much to get to today with our very special guest, Sam Vaknin, and we are going to talk the ongoing trend of no contact with family members, which really, really resonated with you guys after our most recent segment. And we're going to talk too about very difficult sibling dynamics, one known as golden child versus the scapegoat. We had, again, so many emails from troublemakers asking if we could get into this with someone as well-versed as Sam. And so we are giving you exactly what you asked for. That's why we're here. Here we go. Are you searching for that thoughtful holiday gift? Cove Pure Water Purifier is it. I have one of these and I love it. Cove Pure lets you select hot, cold, or warm water instantly. No more waiting for the kettle. Hydration is key, as we know, but we don't always meet our body's daily needs. Cove Pure's sizing, however, their sizing presets make it effortless to do so. Just hit the 16-ounce button a few times a day and stay on track. Plus, the water tastes pristine. It's pure with no aftertaste. And most importantly, Cove Pure is lab certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants like PFAs, pharmaceuticals, fluoride, lead, and arsenic. So if you're looking for a gift that's good for your loved ones and that they'll actually use, don't think twice. It's Cove Pure. And because The Nerve has partnered with Cove Pure, they're giving our troublemakers a special $250 holiday discount with link covepure.com/nerve. That's covepure.com/nerve to get $250 off. covepure.com/nerve. Hurry before the sale ends. It's the holidays, and that's when complicated family dynamics tend to flare up. So we decided who better to bring in for a chat about how to navigate this stuff than The Nerve's favorite psychology expert, Professor Sam Vaknin. Sam, welcome back to The Nerve.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you again, Maureen.
It's good to see you. Where are you coming to us from?
Don't ask. I've been traveling, over traveling.
Over traveling sounds like such a sophisticated problem.
Yes, indeed.
So we originally were going to tackle the golden child versus the scapegoat, which is a very common family dynamic, and we will do it today. But before that, I wanted to touch on or rather really talk to you about this concept of going no contact with family members who have aggrieved you. We're not talking about going no contact with family members who have abused you, who have really either sexually, physically, emotionally, psychologically really abused you. No, we're talking going no contact because you don't like the way somebody voted. You don't like the way somebody doles out advice. You know, it could be minor things. Now, this video has gone viral. We're gonna show it for anyone who hasn't seen it. This is, again, one of the darkest forces at work today. One Oprah Winfrey moderating a room full of people in New York City who say that they've gone no contact with their family for years and they're happier for it. We're going to take a look, and then Sam, I'm going to ask you to get into it. Here we go.
So maybe you all can relate in some way to this growing phenomenon known as going no contact. That's when a person cuts off ties to someone in their family. A Cornell University study now shows that almost 1/3 of Americans are actively estranged from a family member.
Sam, what do you make of this, and what do you think explains the way in which this has caught fire among the general population?
I coined the phrase no contact actually in the 1980s to describe a set of 27 strategies that apply to a situation where you have an abuser as a family member. Mm. So these are 27 strategies, they're pretty complex. I'm not going into all this. At no point did I or anyone else imply that no contact is applicable to situations where you simply disagree with someone, or you don't feel comfortable with someone, or so we make a distinction in clinical psychology or family psychology. We make a distinction between no contact, which is a valid mainstream strategy nowadays, mainstream strategy for coping with abuse, and estrangement, which is a completely different ballgame.
What's the difference?
Estrangement is when you are unwilling to invest the necessary resources in order to maintain a relationship, or at the very least an interaction with a family member. So, and it doesn't have to be a blood family member, could be a spouse, could even be a boyfriend or girlfriend, someone in an intimate setting. So where intimacy is involved, we have estrangement.
So estrangement is there something that somehow feels more valid about estrangement versus no contact? Is there something that feels less finite about estrangement than no contact?
Estrangement is a form of self-indulgence. It's a form of self-indulging oneself. It's a form of entitlement, in effect. And in this sense, ironically, estrangement is narcissistic. It's when you decide that the minimal investment necessary in order to maintain a frictionless environment where you are able to accommodate other people's points of view, other people's behavioral modes, other people's quirks and frailties and vulnerabilities and weaknesses and demands on your time and other resources. When you decide that all these are too much for you, that you're entitled to special treatment, that therefore you are superior morally and ethically to other people, and that any form of compromise is the equivalent of a surrender. So estrangement usually involves a power play. It's a form of a power play where you withdraw, you disengage as a manipulative tactic, as a way to exert and exhibit power, to show how strong you are, how superior you are.
Interesting. So what's going on with these, what has become not only extremely acceptable, but laudable means of disengagement. I think there's a sort of, it's a coalescing of two distinct things that have risen in the culture, I think, to a dangerous degree. One, the culture of narcissism. I think it's been amplified by social media and finding your hives and your bubbles and living in there. And then it's political. And I really think, this is just my opinion from what I observe, the election of Trump in 2016 really gave rise to this idea of no contact, that there are virtue signalers who believe to have any relationship with a family member who may have voted for Trump is to sully oneself, to be emboldening, racism. He's Hitler, basically. He's Hitler, right? And so you see, at least in America, I read these venerated advice columnists who've been syndicated for years who have bought into this and who promulgate this idea. They'll get letters from people saying, this Thanksgiving, my MAGA voting uncle is going to be there, and I just don't think I can sit at the same table. And they're told, you're absolutely right. You're defending democracy and protecting your own moral center, so go do it. I mean, Sam, can you talk about this?
There is a strand of narcissism known as prosocial or communal narcissism, where self-indulgence, selfishness, and entitlement are cloaked, they are disguised as something commendable.
Yes.
Socially and otherwise. And it is a form of narcissism. But I think there are other trends at play which preceded even the rise of narcissism, the recent rise of narcissism. And I think the foremost amongst which is atomization.
Atomization.
Atomization, where people have been rendered self-sufficient by technology.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need other people anymore.
Oh, yes,
And so
yes.
other people are perceived as a burden.
Yes, because they have needs and wants.
Yes, because they have needs and wants and demands and expectations even.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
even unexpressed expectations. Their very presence is perceived as intolerable and burdensome.
Yes.
And there was a rise in what I call malignant tolerance.
Oh, yeah? Tell us about that.
It's a situation where any speech act and any behavior and any choice and any decision can be construed as a form of injury, as a slight. Now,
Yes.
this is a clinical term. This has a clinical term. It's known as hypervigilance. Narcissists scan the room. They scan other people. They're always on the alert, and they interpret innocuous behaviors and innocent acts of speech. They interpret them as deliberate attacks. They become very defensive and very aggressive and possibly at times violent. And so hypervigilance is a key clinical feature in pathological narcissism. And I think people have elevated hypervigilance and rendered it an ideology. They have
Yes,
idealized
it's a religion.
it's a religion. They've idealized it, they've idolized it, and they've rendered it an organizing and explanatory principle of social relations. And so hypervigilance has two sides. On the one hand, it inhibits speech. Like there are things you can't say, things
Yes.
which are taboo. And if you do say them, you're being injurious, you're being immoral and amoral, you're being an a-hole and worse, and so on and so forth. You're being maybe Hitler, yeah?
Yeah.
And this is political correctness and all these manifestations of this facet of malignant tolerance. And the other facet of malignant tolerance is self-isolation. Because if you are attuned all the time to possible slights and insults and attacks and so on, you're going to end up developing paranoid ideation. And then you're going to isolate yourself in order to minimize the surface of injury, the surface of attack, so to speak. So you're going to isolate yourself. Now, initially in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, it was very difficult to isolate yourself because the interdependence between people was huge. But nowadays, with modern technologies, each and every one of us can be entirely self-sufficient. Like, you could stay in your apartment for the rest of your life, never ever exit the door. You could be agoraphobic, basically, and survive well into your 90s without any problem.
But Sam, this is so fascinating. Not to cut you off, but we just emerged from that very thing. We just emerged from COVID. It was the blink of an eye when we were all in lockdown, and the profound isolation that we all came to feel. One would think once those doors and windows were open would have brought about a renewed appreciation for our interdependence, for our need for each other, for all of the benefits of socializing. And instead, it seems people have retreated even further into their corners. And as you said, with these emerging technologies, now we've got chatbots, we've got debates going on in the culture as to whether human relationships with either AI or robots, be they platonic or sexual, are going to be legitimate. I mean, I don't know that there's any dialing this back before it's too late. I mean, what do you see? What do you see coming down the road?
Well, first of all, the underlying supposition or underlying assumption that human beings are social animals is not new. It dates back to Aristotle, who called people zoon politikon, the social animal.
Yeah.
And yet, it seems that given the chance, people avoid each other with alacrity and cheer and joy. Given the chance, people isolate themselves. The default seems to be aloneness, not togetherness. It seems that collective action, collaboration, cooperation, all these things, pooling resources, sharing, all these things, were forced upon us by the exigencies of scarcity and famine and war and by the lack of appropriate technology. having been given the chance nowadays to avoid other people, Pew Center studies show that at least half of all people make this choice. 42% of adults, for example, make this choice.
But is it a chicken or the egg thing, Sam? You know, without modern technology, without the sort of substitute interaction with people online or with AI or with chatbots, what have you, would people be so easily able to default to that aloneness?
I subscribe to the view that technology is responsive. It is not a driver of change. It is responsive to change. So I think what preceded technology was the need to be alone, which has not been satisfied for thousands of years. And finally, we had breakthroughs which allowed us to be alone. And then we embraced these technologies. Take, for example, the following fact. The pandemic is over,
Yeah.
and people refuse to return to the office. And when
No, I would push back on that, though, because
Yeah.
that is not a voluntary act. You have a boss, you have demands, you are told my time is annexed by you because I pay you. And so you're going to commute
That's
2
not-
hours a day. And like your life is a misery. And we've all
That's not
seen
what
it's
the
much
studies show.
easier.
That's not what the studies show. When we ask people, why do you refuse to return to the office? They say, because I don't want to see my colleagues.
Well, that also I would push back on. That's forced. Like I don't get to choose my colleagues, you know, and it's different than a family, or it's different than friends who you choose, right?
Exactly,
You know?
but they don't have family. They don't have family and friends. In 1980, a typical American, according to studies, had 9.8 good friends. The question in the studies at the time was, if you had a secret or a problem, how many people would you share it with? And the answer was, on average, 9.8 people. The number today is 0.9. So there's been a decline not only in forced socializing, like in the workplace,
Right.
but there has been an enormous decline in voluntary socializing. People are not having friends anymore, and they don't want to see their families. They disguise it. They create ideologies and they create theories and they create, they are disguising it. Estrangement is simply an indication of the underlying psychology of alone is good, alone is empowering. When I'm alone, I can shape my environment and my life to fit me snugly, like hand in glove. But when I'm surrounded by people, they push back. It requires an investment of energy and resources, and it's aggravating, it's irritating. I don't want any of this. There is, of course, also another trend, and that is a trend of infantilization.
Yeah.
People are immature, seriously.
Yes.
Immature.
Yes. What is that about? Does that dovetail with the narcissism? Just the refusal to
it's
brook anybody else's needs or wants is equal to, if not at times superseding one's own?
It has to do with narcissism, of course. One of the key elements in pathological narcissism is arrested development or stunted development. These people are basically children. Narcissists are children.
Yeah.
We've discussed it on previous occasions. But it's not only narcissists who are immature or regressed into an infant state. It's vast swaths of the population, I would say. And I think the reason is that we have it easy. We don't have to work to produce our food.
Yeah.
We work a few hours a day. I mean, people used to work 16 hours a day.
If you're a white collar professional, you can work
Mostly
a few hours
if you're
a day.
white collar, but yeah, I mean, people on the lower levels of the socioeconomic ladder have to work several jobs in order to make ends meet.
Yeah.
That's quite accurate. But the ethos, the ideal, the aspiration is to work less. Whereas in previous periods in history, the ideal was to work more. The work dignified you, your job dignified you, your job defined you, your identity was your job. To this very day in Japan, for example. But nowadays, it's I want to work less. I want to have more leisure. I want to entertainment has become the predominant feature of modern life, not erudition, not hard work, and so on. Now, I'm not expressing an opinion here. I'm not saying it's bad or good, but these are the facts. So when we look at the lives of adults nowadays, it's very difficult to tell them apart from, let's say, adolescents, if not children.
Yes.
And this is not a new observation. This started in the 70s, and they coined the
The
phrase,
me decade.
the mid-decade Peter Pan syndrome, and then they coined the phrase puera eternus, which means eternal adolescent, or puella eterna for a woman. And so this is not a new observation. And regressive infantilization of society means that you're much less likely to enjoy interactions with other people. Because children are pretty solipsistic. Children are self-focused. Their empathy is not well developed. Children are incapable of cooperating with other children on a sustained basis. Children are high conflict. They're antagonistic. And children basically walk away or run away if you don't comply with their wishes and don't meet their expectations and don't. So we see these infantile behavior patterns coupled with atomization, coupled with technological empowerment, coupled with self-sufficiency, coupled with all these things, narcissism. I mean, put all of these together, and you end up having a situation where we glorify and glamorize the aloneness, the state of being alone. Yes. I'm not saying loneliness, because loneliness is a reaction to being alone.
Yes.
Loneliness is a psychological reaction to being alone, and it's a negative reaction. Like if you
it's
don't
a negative one, and it's a predictor of early mortality more so than a lot of other true physical ailments. And I do think, you said you're not saying whether it's bad or good. I think it's a force for bad. I think it's a force for darkness. And I think the likes of Oprah Winfrey standing up there and talking to millions of people and saying, hey, this is basically underscoring that this is a valid choice, that if somebody in your life is just annoying you, somebody who has earned a real place in your life is annoying you, the best thing to do is just cut them off like a useless limb. I think it's an extremely dark message that is being swallowed whole by a population that's been narcotized in this way. Today's show is brought to you by Oxford Natural, home of the all-natural Optimum Day and Optimum Night supplements. Are you trying to lose weight after having a baby, or are you prepping for your wedding, or just ready to feel like yourself again? Thousands of men and women across the US and UK are already doing it with Oxford Natural. Optimum Day powers you with steady energy. It crushes cravings and it keeps your metabolism firing all day. Optimum Night helps you relax, sleep deeply, recover, and keep burning fat while you rest. England soccer legend Michael Owen lost 40 pounds, and Robbie, the face of AFTV, dropped over 100 pounds. This has worked for others too, with customer testimonials raving about Oxford Natural's effectiveness. Now it's your turn. Scan the QR code or click the link and grab 70% off your first order with code NERVE. No gimmicks, no needles, just results. Oxford Natural. Let's get to work. Now that the holidays are truly upon us, I wanted to get to a sibling dynamic that is extremely common. We've gotten a lot of emails about this, and it is the golden child versus the scapegoat. The one or both parents anointing one child the good one, the other child the bad one, and sometimes these two roles flip. It's kinetic, it's dynamic. One of my favorite depictions of this is in the 1955 film East of Eden. It's a Cain and Abel story adapted from the John Steinbeck novel. James Dean plays Cal, the scapegoat. And I forget the actor who plays Aaron, because it's James Dean's movie, but he's the good one. And so we're going to show a clip of the James Dean character exploding on the father for his neglect, if not just outright dislike, palpable contempt for Cal. Here we go.
Where's Aaron?
I don't know. Not my brother's keeper.
Where did you go?
For a ride.
What did you quarrel about?
You?
You're angry about the money.
No, I'm not angry. I like it. I think it's great. I'm gonna go away. I'm gonna take that money with me, and I think I'll start me a little business. Just like my mother did.
What do you know about your mother?
I know where she is, know what she is, and I know why she left you. Couldn't stand it. You didn't really love her any more than you do me. Because your goodness, your rightness, you never gave either one of us an inch, ever, for what you thought was right. You kept on forgiving us. You never really loved us. I know why you didn't love me. Because I'm like my mother, and you never forgave yourself for having loved her. All right, I'm not going to forgive him. I'm never going to forgive him.
Where's Aaron?
He's with her. With his mother. She's over there in Monterey, if you want to know. She owns one of them houses. I took Aaron there tonight because I was jealous. I've been jealous all my life. Jealous, I couldn't even stand it. Tonight I even tried to buy your love. But now I don't want it anymore. I can't use it anymore.
Carl, don't talk to your father like that.
I don't want any kind of love anymore.
Such an incredible movie. So, Sam, talk to us about how the dynamics of the golden child versus the scapegoat tend to, what their origins tend to be. I know everything is case by case and family dynamics are often specific, but this is a very, very common thing that happens in families.
Yeah, just for historical record's sake, it's Richard DeVallos, the other actor.
Did you just Google that, Sam, to show me up?
No, I'm not. I'm not criticizing you. It's an obscure actor. It's not like,
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I've seen that movie like 20 times, but the guy who plays Aaron always fades in my memory because James Dean is so vivid, and the emotional shifts in that one scene alone are just wild. But anyway, talk to us.
Yeah, no, I'm a movie buff. I have like a collection of 25,000 movies. So
No, you're talking my language.
yeah, I love movies. Okay. To understand the emergence of scapegoats and golden children in families, we need to explore two concepts, which are pretty interesting and important because they apply to other types of settings in life.
Okay.
The first concept is known as role theory. And it says that people allocate roles. When people are in a unit, a social unit, could be a family, could be any other type of collective.
Friend group.
Yeah, whatever. They tend to allocate roles to each other. So in a
Okay.
typical family, you would have the fixer, you would have the conciliator, you would have the scapegoat, you have the golden child. There are many types of roles allocated to the children, and they're known as emergent roles. That is to explain or to make clear that scapegoat and golden child are two possible roles, but there are many others.
Okay.
Okay, so the second and much more relevant concept is something that I came up with, I coined, and it's projected splitting. To understand projected splitting, we need to go even further, deeper, and get acquainted with two infantile primitive psychological defense mechanisms known as splitting and projection.
Okay.
Splitting is simply when you divide the world and everyone in it into all bad and all good, all
Yes.
black and all white. This is known as dichotomous thinking.
Dichotomous thinking. Okay.
And the other element is projection. It's when there are parts of you that you find uncomfortable, that you reject, that you're unhappy with. Rather than confront these parts and integrate them, rather than be honest with yourself, what you do is you attribute them to other people. You say, it's not me. They're like that. I'm not like that. They're like that.
It's kind of the theory that the characteristics you may find most grating in others are the ones that you yourself have and either are in denial about them or just cannot look at them.
Exactly. This is projection. And then you would attribute them to other people, and this gives you the right to criticize them, to denigrate them, because you now have attained the high moral ground. You're purified.
Yes.
Projection is an act of purification and purging. Okay, now combine the two into my new construct of projected splitting. When you combine the two, what do you have? You have a situation where there's an immature parental figure. Could be a narcissist, could be a depressive person, but it's a person who is unable to function, a dysfunctional person.
Yes.
And so I'm going to use she, although it equally applies, of course, to fathers, not only mothers.
Sure, let's demonize the women. We got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a male chauvinist, and I'm old enough to be Victorian. So if you when you have a mother, for example, who engages in splitting, she would tend to see some of her children as all good and some of her children as all bad. But that's not enough. What she does then, she self-splits. She divides herself into a part that is all good and a part that is all bad. And then she projects these parts onto the children. So there would be a child which would become the receptacle or the container of everything that is good in the mother, or everything the mother considers to be good. And there would be another child who would become the repository of everything that is bad in the mother, or everything the mother dislikes about herself, rejects, denies, hates about herself. So there's splitting, self-splitting, and then projecting these parts onto the children. The child who is lucky enough, who has won the lottery and got the good parts of the mother, becomes the golden child. And the child who is the container or repository of the bad parts, that's a scapegoat.
I often think, though, there are a lot of downsides to being the golden child, and I think there are a lot of upsides to being the scapegoat. Being the scapegoat sort of gives you free rein to be as bad as you want to be. It liberates a child very early on from these ideas, if you're self-aware enough, that there is such a thing as all good or all bad, unless we're talking about psychopathy. Why I love the East of Eden example is because it's the father who, as James Dean rightly points out, the psychology of this book and this movie are so incredible. The father hates himself for having loved the mother, who now the father has moralized and elevated himself even higher because the mother's now running a brothel up in Monterey. So the mother's a real sinner, right? And he's got to protect the golden child from knowing his true origins. But the father hates Cal, the seeker. He's the scapegoat. He wants the truth. He wants to know why he's so unloved. He's so unloved because he reminds the father of the mother, but really of the father's failure for falling in love with someone he thinks is a bad woman. So what I want to ask you is how it can be possible, because I think the real damage comes when the siblings themselves are unable to realize the machinations at play and that they have been manipulated into believing that one of them is good and one of them is a hopeless case, is bad. And how, especially if you're adult siblings and this perhaps has calcified, a golden child and a scapegoat can begin to talk to each other and see each other as actually both victims.
Yeah, to respond to this elaborate question, we need to introduce another concept from psychology known as projective identification. Projective identification simply means that once I've projected something onto you, a part of myself that I dislike and reject, now I attribute it to you, I want you to behave this way. I want you to confirm my projection. I want you to comply with my projection. So it's not only that the parent allocates roles, and it's not only that the parent kind of deposits her good side with the golden child, her bad side with the scapegoat, but the parent also wants the children to behave accordingly. So the parent communicates expectations to the child. You are a bad, unworthy, inadequate child, and if you love me, you're going to behave this way.
Yes.
You're going to be a bad boy or a bad girl, because when you are a bad boy or a bad girl, that means you agree with me, it means you are validating me, and it means you love me.
Right.
So this is projective identification. And this is the reason why children actually comply with the assigned roles. Because you could ask yourself, why don't children rebel? Because children are rebellious by nature. Why don't they rebel against this assignment of roles? Because it guarantees love. They are loved only if they play by the script, if they play out the script, if they comply with the rule book. So this illicit and subtle communication of, you're bad, you're evil, you're unworthy, but if you behave this way, you're also lovable. You're lovable only if you're bad.
Right.
And of course, the other type of communication is you're lovable only if you comply with my wishes, realize my fantasies, fulfill my dreams, and so on. It's exceedingly difficult to exit these roles lifelong unless the parent reassigns them.
Can the adult siblings find liberation on their own, whether they're in therapy, whether they are liberated? It would be considered a dark thought, but it's often quite true. When a parent dies, some people really come into their own because they're free. They're free of the prison guard, frankly, the emotional prison guard. This is a lesser example, but I know siblings who have open communications about this. My sibling and I are among them. Oh, you were the father's favorite. You were dad's favorite. You were mom's favorite. That's just the way it is. Nobody's fault. Nope. It's not our fault. It's not your fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. It was their issues. So I do wonder if there is hope where a golden child could reach out to a scapegoat and say, hey, like, I see what went on, and I didn't like it.
Inter-sibling reconciliation and inter-sibling understanding and so on are definitely possible, and very common, actually.
I love this. I love this.
Siblings form a common front against the abusing parents.
Mm-hmm.
So the golden child teams up with a scapegoat, and they both vilify and demonize the parents. That's pretty common. It's not only an awakening. It usually goes way beyond that. The parents are mythologized somehow, and there's a morality play where the children are all good. And so, ironically, what siblings tend to do, they tend to adopt splitting as a defense. The parents' infantile defense mechanisms, which I've mentioned before, like splitting and projection, kind of affect the siblings, and they tend to apply these weapons against the parents. It's not a healthy dynamic.
Are you talking about as a mode of reconciliation?
No, I mean, siblings can definitely reach a situation where they love each other, they realize what has happened to them, they understand they've been victimized, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so you're not saying that in order to do that's another pathology at work where you're demonizing the parent rather than just acknowledging what went on. There's a difference.
The studies then show that having gone through this stage of awakening,
mm-hmm.
most people proceed into the next stage, which is not healthy, which is vilifying, demonizing the parents, creating a morality play where the children were all good and the parents were all bad, splitting the parents, like my parents are evil and I'm pure, angelic,
right,
and so on. So this is an unhealthy phase. You need to create an integrated, nuanced view of your parents.
Yes.
Which includes forgiveness.
Yes.
Includes understanding. Includes putting yourself in their shoes, which is empathy,
mm-hmm.
and includes the realization that you're an adult, and now you can understand them much better.
Yes, and I love this. Go ahead. Sorry, not to cut you off.
Forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to forget. You should not forget. Remembering is a crucial element in healing. But there's a difference between forgetting and forgiving. You can remember and not and forgive, and you can remember and not forgive. There are various combinations.
Yes.
It's critical to understand the limitations of your parents. The vast majority of parents are not evil. This was not premeditated. It was not a cunning, scheming, psychopathic ploy to destroy your life and victimize you and ruin you. They were simply limited people. They were limited maybe by their own mental illness, their own upbringing, their own historical background, there are numerous constraints and pressures that parents go through. And understanding your parents in this way, I think, is a crucial step. Unfortunately, many people go the wrong way. And this is estrangement, coming back to the previous topic.
Yes, exactly.
They
Exactly
say,
where it's going.
my parents are all bad and I'm never ever going to have any contact with them again. And that's not healthy, because then the situation is unresolved. And
It's not healthy for you. I think, to get to the, if anybody, most people can be animated to act out of self-interest. And it is not healthy to go through life demonizing and vilifying. Again, we're not talking about abusers. We're not talking about sexual, psychological, verbal, physical abuse. We're talking about recognizing that, as even we're talking about the splitting between a golden child and a scapegoat, that many parents are limited and are products of their generation, their time, their own parenting. Each successive generation tries to do better. Find your calm this holiday season with Peak. Peak is a luxury wellness brand powered by rare plants and cutting-edge ingredients, offering the perfect remedy for this season's hustle and bustle. Their science-backed botanicals, minerals, and vitamins support metabolic function, immune health, sustained energy, and it'll give you radiant skin. Their Sun Goddess Matcha is an organic superfood blend that redefines your daily ritual. Crafted from the purest tea leaves, it provides a smooth, sustained energy for a calm mind and that radiant glow. Plus, the nutrients can help curb sugar and hunger cravings, making it easier to stick to your wellness goals. If you are ready to gift the glow, unlock 20% off for life for yourself and everyone on your list. Give the gift of glowing health this holiday season. Get started at peaklife.com/thenerve. That's PIQUE life.com/thenerve.
there is a caveat.
There's always a caveat with you, Sam.
Yeah, of course there is.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that when people interact with their parents, they revert to the assigned role.
Yes. So we got so many emails about this. Like, I go to the holiday dinner table and I turn into an 8-year-old.
Yeah,
I am a
that's true.
mother. I have a career. I am a wife. I'm across from my father and I become 8. How does one fight back against that? Can you? Should you?
It's very difficult to fight back against that. The assigned roles, as I said earlier, are pretty lifelong. And they are a determinant of identity. And you internalize your parents, they become introjects, and they speak to you from the inside.
Interjects. I love that word.
Yeah, and they speak to you from the inside, and one of the messages is, this is your role. If you love me, you're going to fulfill the role. You're going to comply with the role. You're going to play the role, if you love me. That's proof of love. You need to prove your love. Your love needs to be performative. These are very sick family dynamics. Let it be clear. These are not healthy family dynamics. And yet a lot of this is internalized and carried forward to the end of life. So the best you can do is reconstruct your family with your siblings and other members of the family, like aunts and uncles and grandmothers and grandfathers and so on. Reconstruct your family. Essentially accept that your mother and father were not gods. They were gods with clay feet. They were limited. They did their best, but the best wasn't good enough. You have to accept this. People fail. They have failed you. They haven't. It's not about victimizing. It's not that they have victimized you. They have failed you. It's a failure. And so you have to accept that people fail. You have to be adult about it. You have to be mature about it. And you have to accept that when you're in the presence of your parents, you're going to revert to your assigned role. You're going to regress. You're going to become an infant. That is totally normal. No need to be anxious about this. No need to be angry about this. It's totally normal thing. And when you leave, return to your home and to your life, I mean, it's transient. It doesn't have long-term consequences or anything. So there are inevitabilities in life. There are ineluctable things that there's very little we can do about. We're shaped and we are formed. Recent studies in neuroscience have demonstrated pretty conclusively that we are completely shaped by age 9.
Whoa.
The brain has 4 ages, and one of them is age 9. So now we know that the formative years are 0 to 9, not 0.
Wow.
This is very recent. This is the bleeding edge. This is like a few days ago. And so we have to accept this. We have been shaped, we have been molded, we have been sculpted. And to some extent, some parts of us are going to be like that. What is the solution? To give up on your life? If you give up on your parents, you're giving up on a crucial part of your life and an enormous portion of your identity. This is self-sabotage. This is self-defeating. This is not a good way forward. This is self-denial. You're denying yourself. It's very likely to result in phenomena such as anxiety and depression. You have to confront your life, embrace it, integrate it. You have to become one with your life. And your parents will always be there. They're inside your head. There's nothing you can do about it. They're always going to be inside your head. They're an integral part of your personal biography. They form your what we call episodic memories. You can't get rid of your parents by going no contact. That is delusional. That's not only infantile, it's also delusional. It's not working. I mean, had it worked, I may have said, it's a great idea. It's not working. It's not going to work. Because your parents are inside your head. They're not out there. And this is the answer to your other question. When the parents pass away, that doesn't resolve the issue. People believe that it resolves the issue. They convince themselves. It's like the placebo effect, They convince themselves, my mother is passed away. Now I'm free. That's false. That's fake. That's not real.
I got to tell you something. I had a shrink once. So I had been hospitalized for pneumonia years and years and years ago. And I was put from the emergency room up into a room with, there was an elderly woman in the bed next to me and she was dying. She was like actively dying. And she was maybe 90. She looked like a wraith. She looked like that wraith in Seven when the cops go into the room and they're like, they think the guy's dead. And he's like, And she was screaming, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." She was like screaming this. And I said to my shrink when I got out of the hospital, I was like, "It never ends, does it?" And she goes, "No, it never does.
Never does. True.
Never does.
But
Mommy's always there."
But if we have 2 more minutes, I would like I would like maybe to restore some proportion.
Yes.
There is no job more terrifying than a parent.
Yes.
Not the President of the United States, not the Chief Justice, not the most terrifying job by far is parent, mother or father.
You're so right.
And also, the majority of people are not equipped to be parents.
Yes.
They were not trained to be parents. They didn't learn or study how to be
And I'm
parents.
going to say something that might be controversial, but I believe it's true. I think there are more people walking around than not who have kids or had children because it was the thing to do. Yeah. It was the expected thing to do.
People have kids for a variety of wrong reasons and so on. Mm-hmm. But I'm talking now about the innate capacity to parent.
Understood.
People don't know how to parent because they had a bad example at home growing up, or because they think parenting is like driving a car, it's kind of an automatic thing, or because they've been misled by society to believe that having children is a thing to do, or for a variety of reasons.
Right.
So put the two together. Mm-hmm. The terror, the absolute terror of having a child, mm-hmm. the fear of getting it wrong, mm-hmm. the ignorance, am I doing the right thing? the expectations, multiple expectations, including of your own parents, and so there's an ambience of terror coupled with inadequacy in the majority of cases. Now imagine how terrifying this is. Your parents, I mean, I'm not talking, as you said, I'm not talking about incest and sexual abuse. I'm not talking about these things. These are beyond the pale.
Yes.
A typical pair of parents, including parents who split and divide children into assign roles of golden child and scapegoat, which is very common, more common than you would think.
Yeah.
They were doing their best. You must accept this. They were doing their best. That's the best they could do. Are you angry at them for being who they are or who they were? Are you angry at them? What are you angry at them for? Let me understand. That's the maximum they could have done. That's it. The same applies to yourself. You have to forgive yourself. You're always doing your best. If the outcome is less than optimal, if you keep failing, whatever, there's no call for you to be angry at yourself, to criticize yourself, to vilify yourself, no reason for any of this. You're doing your best. We're all doing our best all the time, but we're limited. We're helpless. We are, and very often we fail. And especially when we're in panic mode. And all parents I know are constantly in panic mode. And panic mode never ends, even when the child is 16, and even when the child is 26, and even when the child is 46. The panic mode never ends. It's taxing. Being a parent is taxing. I don't want to go into studies because I don't want to dissuade people. But it's a tough job. It's a horrible job. It's a tough job. And if you get it wrong, you ruin someone's life. You're ruining someone's life. The stakes are enormous. Cut them some slack. Give them a break. They did what they could. Stop being so, self-focused and
self-righteous.
Self-righteous and sanctimonious. And what makes you think you would have done a better job?
I got to say, Sam, I love everything you're saying. I hope that the conversations that you and I are having at the Nerve have some pushback in a culture still led by Oprah Winfrey, who had on that show that we showed at the top of the Nerve, a guy, like a 28-year-old guy who said, yeah, I've been no contact with my parents for years now. And you want to know why? They wanted me to succeed. They wanted me to go to an Ivy League school and perform well. That's his gripe. They wanted a good life for him. So no contact for them. They're gone. They're floating in space, and I think everything that you have had to say here today has been incredibly enlightening. Some of it's complicated, some of it's difficult to absorb, but some of it is extremely, I think, gives consolation and encouragement to many people who this holiday season will be sitting around a table wondering why they feel like they're 8 and maybe reaching across to the scapegoated kid and saying, hey, man, let's go outside and take a walk. I think I know what went on there.
Can I add one more sentence?
Of course.
Estrangement, the rejection of others, going no contact for no good reason, is because you cannot accept the fact that other people are different to you. You cannot accept the otherness of people.
Very true.
This is a form of othering.
Yes.
This is exactly what the woke movement is all about.
Yes.
You shouldn't other people, alterity, You shouldn't reject people just because they're not like you. Then why are you rejecting your parents because they're not like you? Why are you rejecting?
Yes.
Why are you rejecting your Trump voting brother because he's not like you? Where is the much hallowed tolerance and openness and when it comes to your own family? So you need to accept that people are not like you. Shocking. People are not like you. And not everything revolves around you. I know it's unbelievable, but it happens to be true. And that people have a life and they have a mind and they make their own decisions and choices, analysis and conclusions and so on and so forth. And very often they're not like yours. You need to develop othering skills. You need to develop the ability to accept other people and their differences. It is a huge irony, of course, that all these super tolerant, people
Yes.
are only tolerant towards people who are like-minded, only tolerant within silos, thought silos, and only tolerant within the in-group, while rejecting wholeheartedly and sometimes aggressively the out-group.
And who have turned that notion of going no contact into a religion.
No contact is an aggressive act. It is externalized aggression. No other way to describe it. I mean, except if you're being abused.
Exactly. With that exception, well stated, well established here, but it is a profound act of cruelty, and it cuts family members off from successive generations. I mean, there were many people in that special talking about having zero relationship with their own grandchildren, and that is a cruelty.
With the exception of abuse,
Yep.
all other forms of no contact are actually expressions of unmitigated externalized aggression. And in this sense, they are very typical of psychopaths and narcissists and so on. We're coming back full circle. It is definitely a manifestation and expression of antisocial narcissism. Not only narcissism, but the antisocial kind.
Mm-hmm. Sam, I wish I could go on with you forever, but for now, we will leave it there. This is one of the kind of holiday conversations we at The Nerve love to have. Thank you again for joining us, and see you soon.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you again. And
good to see you.
Merry and happy. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Merry and happy to you, Sam.
Take care.
That does it for our Tuesday edition of The Nerve. Come back and see us tomorrow for The Nerve at Night. If you haven't already, check out our Substack at thenerveshow.com. Be sure to subscribe, plus Nerve merch. There's new holiday stuff over there. Troublemakers, grab something for yourself or pick something up for a fellow traveler at shopthenerve.com. Also, The Nerve is now available on Megan's podcast playlist every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern on Sirius XM channel 111, the Megan Kelly channel. We will see you back here tomorrow at The Nerve, where you'll never guess what we're about to say next.